Hey, this is Ramin from Kayra. Today I want to review the design of the leg because the legs are super important for the stability of the walk. And there has been a lot of learnings during the last 16 months where I've been developing Kayra. So that's the third version of the legs. And basically I want to walk you through all of these different design iterations. So when we're looking here at the very first version of the leg, the idea is basically that we have the shins and the knee, and this should be parallel, this should be parallel, and this should also be parallel. And these inner workings should also be parallel. And you see that this is not working here. This is kind of okay. And the servos are basically not in line with each other. Also, if you look up here, then there is quite a lot of movement, and you see also the geometry was basically a design where we wanted to have the things in place, but they didn't have a spatial relation to each other. So the screws basically just yeah, connect the stuff in midair, and also the hinges here are basically designed to just fit but nothing else, and so this was a bit wobbly and it was jumping out. So all of the movements here are brutal. When you're looking at this one, then there is a lot of movements possible, and this is not what you want basically when it comes to movements that are not controlled by the servos, but mostly by stuff that happens um, due to the plastics. A second thing is the weight distribution here with the servo compared to the foot, because the servo's mass is over here, but the servo including the disc is basically in the middle of the foot. So the mass distribution in relation to the foot geometry is not optimal. It should move a bit further here. And so there were a couple of learnings basically that led me to change a lot of designs, especially um, in terms of how the stuff is moving. And so we are going to the current design of Kayra, which is the leg that is basically over here. And you see it's still attached to the body. And what we see here is the geometry of the calves has changed. It's much easier to print because this is really touching the base of the printer. We have a bit better fitting for the geometry here. It's still a bit wobbly, but it's much better. It's not jumping out anymore. The shins have received a change here with the stability in here. So basically they don't move as much, and I introduced a little bit of cable management, which is also cool because you don't want to have the cables back here. The cable management is stopping here at the hip, but it's kind of okay. And also the hip design has improved a bit so that this is not jumping out anymore. And it's a two-part design where also the screws fit much better. And I introduced also the bearings, at least for the hip and the ankle. And finally, we have the weight distribution so that this part is a bit longer than this part. And so basically we have the weight of the servo really in the middle um, of the foot, so that basically Kayra is really standing with all of her weight basically in the middle of the foot, which is super important. Second thing that I always wanted is that she can go down really to the maximum level, which is not the case here because there is a lot of geometry basically working against each other. For example, here the shin is blocked by the knee and so on. So there needed to be a lot of redesign, and you see this one is okay, and this one is also okay. Certainly this is not rectangular here, and this is what needed to change, but at least this is in line, and this is in line, and this is in line. So that was a much welcomed improvement. And now by the end of 2023, we have the third version of the design, which is basically this. So I took a lot of wobble out of the foot. The foot is not really moving anymore, which is pretty cool. All of the designs are super tight, so they are really next to each other. The context of the different parts is much better. And most of the screws basically have a lot of plastic to grab. Also here, the wobble is gone basically. Here is the wobble gone. And we have this part here, which is not diagonal anymore, so that basically the geometry can really go down like this. And this looks pretty good for my taste, and this is also pretty perfect. And now we have all of the weight basically in the middle of the foot, which is pretty cool. I also added the cable management here so that there is a hole in the upper hip, and I can move all of the cables basically to the inside of the hip. Here's going to be a third servo for the pelvis rotation. But there is enough space to pull out the cables to the back towards the controller. So this design is much better now. Also, I can print the calf here without any kind of support because this is supporting itself. The last design was basically printed in mid-air, which is not very cool. And so there is also additional stability here. There is this part is not missing anymore. I may add another wall in here so that this, I mean, you see it's not really moving a lot anymore, but we could improve this with an additional wall. But that's basically it, and that's going to be the design that I will work on. And also you see that basically the hip is really parallel to the foot, which is pretty cool because it's super important that the upper part of Kayra, where here is most of the mass of the body, that is basically straight and parallel to the ground, so that we don't need any additional forces in the servo to work against this movement of the body. And so I think this is, for the moment, a very perfect design right now. And yeah, that's it. Let's see how Kayra will move with the new geometry. I can't wait. Thanks very much for watching this. I will certainly keep you updated. And if you have any thoughts about the geometry or any questions or improvement suggestions, please do so in the comments or join our Discord channel where we can discuss things in person. Thanks very much.